guest speaker. Many of you know that we've been supporting the preacher training. Thank you. The preacher training school in Kakinada, India for many years. I never will forget over at Park Avenue when Mike Langford brought KG Kumar in. He was a student at Freed Hardeman, and KG Kumar was one of his associates there. And he was going back to India. He came to Freed Hardeman to study and went back to India as a missionary. And from that time till this, we have supported KG Kumar. In the early 90s, Pierce Flatt and I went over there as delegates from this congregation. Several people here have been. There's one thing about India. When you go over there, it changes you. You get back home and it changes you. You understand what I'm saying? It's like going to Nicaragua. You know, oh man, I'll never complain again. But unfortunately, we're this morning in a period of lest we have forgotten about India and the support there that we've done. It's to remind you of what we've done. And David's come this morning. He's from Memphis. He goes to the Forest View Church of Christ. He's retired, and he's devoting his full time to helping local and foreign missions. I can't tell you, I don't have the words to tell you about what this work has meant to the cause of Christ. That church, that preacher training school and church have probably put more preachers out into the world than any other place that I know of, by far. And I traveled around to many of them. Some of them did not meet in a building. Some of them met on the bank of a rice field. Some of them, in fact, if they had a building, the people that came worked in a rice field real close. And you'd see them coming out of the rice field. And now they do have Indian Standard Time. They don't start on time. And they'd start singing, and the people would start coming in out of the rice fields. And you'd see them going out of the rice field, and about 20 minutes later, you'd see them come in these beautiful garments, just all kinds of garments. Oh, thanks, Bob. Good assistant there. Let's see. Got that knocked off. But those, sorry. This is not technology. This is just spastic. We're not here today for one other reason this morning, and that's to learn in this class about what's going on in India at this current time. And at this time, I'll give you David Abel. I've never met David, but I keep up with the training school, and his name comes up very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I appreciate that. I'm going to be moving fast so I can show you. I've got a lot to show you, and I think you'll appreciate it. Basically, I'm a little different than the way a lot of the presenters for foreign work goes. I'm going to take you on a journey. But before we get that started, first of all, I just wanted to point out, this is KG Kumar and his wife, Sandia. And this is F.T. Patton. He is my uncle. He passed away September last year. And his last trip was in 2020, and I took him, and he was in a wheelchair. And then that's me. And I'll give you a quick bio on KG, in addition to Mr. Watley's comments. KG Kumar, full name Kandaraseti Gershon Kumar. His parents sent him to a school away from home. And in India, a lot of the places where you can learn, you have to travel to get there, and you have to find lodging. Well, he stayed in a Christian hostel. That's where he became in contact with the gospel. He was converted, and he read in one of the publications, probably the Gospel Advocate or something like that, and found out that Freed Hardeman University had a program for international students, and he applied, was accepted. And another thing is when he became a Christian, his family basically disowned him, and that happens a lot in India, and it still happens today. And there's political issues on top of that. But anyway, he read about it, he learned about Freed-Hardeman and the opportunities for international students. He received a financial support to attend Freed-Hardeman and graduated in 1976, returned to India with the goal of establishing a preacher's school. He graduated, he left for India to start this school. He started from nothing, basically. But the support of congregations like Westgate, and before I go any farther, I want to say a big thank you to you all, because you're going to see what your contributions have done. There's a big difference in he mentioned some of the preacher training schools and some of the environments. This is actually classroom environments. It's brick and mortar buildings. They own it to the ground. They own the ground it stands on. That gives them an advantage of a lot of other places that are renting buildings for preacher training school. The climate in India is changing. It's becoming less and less accepting of Christianity, because Christianity is making that big a difference in their country. When you look at the numbers today, just quickly, if you don't already know, India has surpassed China in population. And if you had in the most populous country in the world, what religion would you want them to know the best? I know I can answer that easily. Christian. Peaceful people. But moving on, he also came back in 2003 and he received an honorary doctorate degree from Freed-Hardeman. And they don't give those out like cotton candy. So anyway, Fielding Thomas Patton, my uncle, he died, like I mentioned, at age 86, Monday, September the 18th, 2023, at his home, surrounded by his family. He was a minister. He served for 62 years. He served in various mission efforts. In the heart of his mission work, he spent time in Georgia, South Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, and as well as foreign missions in Sri Lanka, which used to be called Ceylon. When he went there, it was Ceylon, and they had this Tamil uprising, and then basically he and his family had to leave. But the church remains. And one of my cousins, Scott Bloodworth, who's also a minister, preaches at the Sitka Church of Christ, went over there to visit the church, and they're still growing and going. And so the work survived, and the work goes on. So anyway, all in all, he spent 44 years making trips. He made 14 different trips to preacher's training school. Sometimes he stayed months at a time when he could. The original church that started the work was Humboldt Church of Christ. Now it's Northeast Church of Christ in Kingsport, Tennessee. But when that changed, when you lost, basically no longer was sent by the Humboldt Church of Christ, he went out and basically collected money, and he kept going year after year, every time he could, health permitting. So anyway, with that, talk about myself a little bit. I'm age 68. I became a Christian in 1968. Kind of an interesting comment there, isn't it? I served as deacon, song leader, teacher of teen classes, teacher of adult classes, leading devotionals, preaching, and more, and I still do it at my local congregation. And currently a member of the Forest View Church of Christ. And again, I retired in 2023 and immediately went to India as fast as I could. And I learned a lot about the work. And the one thing I learned was a lot of people weren't hearing about what had been done there because of the climate there. He didn't want to leave the country. And anyway, but he's thinking about planning a trip next year. Time will tell whether that happens or not. And but anyway, I work for a company called Johnson Controls. We're a global company. We have facilities and engineers and buildings in India. So we have a footprint in India. So that may have made it easier for me to get a 10-year visa. I have 2 of them in a row now. So my family's been longtime supporters with F.T. Patton. And everybody sort of supported him, including my parents, and I did as well. So anyway, that takes you past the introductions. And this is, of course, everybody knows where India is, but that's a long way around. Basically, it's just drill a hole through the earth, and you might be close. This is Rajahmundry. This is the last stop along the way. Basically, it's approximately 29 hours of flight time, depending on which route you take and which route's available. That's the airport. This is on the road from the airport to the school, and you can just see different facilities. There's a lot of shrines. You're going to see a lot of those. I'm going to point some of them out. Even the buses have shrines on the top of them. Those are shrines to the Hindu gods. This is an aerial view, a Google Earth view of the school, and you can see the different buildings and the different dates that these schools were added. The latest one was in 2016, and that's the Evangelism Center, and we'll get to that as we move forward. This is the gateway to enter the complex. This is where the vehicles come in. They only have 3 vehicles. It's not a large pool. But I mentioned travel's pretty difficult. Basically, the students live on campus. They're, food, clothes, whatever, and there's no tuition. You had tuition, you're not going to have students. People are poor. They're poor, not like the poor here. This is more photographs of the building. You can see that's a 3-story building. Those are classrooms, one on top of the other. Of course, it's open air. It's a warm country. This is the Evangelism Center, recently built. There was one built in 2016. It's called the Gardner Hike Evangelism Center. I met Mr. Gardner, and one time, I believe I met him, and I also definitely met Mr. Hike. He was still alive in Northeast Church of Christ in Kingsport. So anyway, they built this, and basically there's not enough power to power a facility that large, so they have to run on generators. Just to give you an idea, it's a lot different than it is here in so many ways. This is just traveling. Basically, this is traveling around. They were taking me to a congregation to speak, and this is a congregation. This is one of the teachers of the school, the instructors of the congregation, and this is a 2024, and that's the Sunday, the first Sunday I was there, and they had me speak and preach and teach or whatever. And this is that man's house. His ground floor is where the church is. And that's inside the church. That's him on the podium. And this is a gift-giving culture. So you got to be flexible if you're going to go. If you're going to go to foreign fields and this, that, and the other, you got to learn to be flexible. So I felt really the first few times I went through that, I felt like I don't deserve this. I still don't, but anyway, it's just their culture, and that's what they do. And if they want to honor me and respect me, and if that helps them bring other souls to Christ, I'm all for it. And this is just along the highways of Kakinada. This is just, traveling through town. You might ask, why am I doing this? I want you to see a little bit of what it's like there. The traffic is terrible. If you try to go somewhere, you never can get there on time. You're either early or late. On time is probably, doesn't happen very often, but it's very difficult. You'll see some more pictures of that moving forward. This is the 33rd Annual Bible Lectureship. It is a 3-day event. They provide boarding, lodging, all is free to all who can come. And all through the lectureships, you have people coming in and out. Some people have to go back to their jobs and this, that, and the other. But it's we were up past COVID levels this year in 2024, and that was really reassuring. And I've got some pictures of that as well. This is entering the building, and the second floor. The lectureship is the second and third floor. The second floor, and then there's a balcony. And you'll see some of that moving forward. Preach the word is their motto. That's KG opening up the lectureship. And like I said, it's a 3-day lectureship. It starts on a Wednesday, a Thursday, and Friday's a half day so people can start moving and get back home. And but anyway, you can see right there, the building is pretty crowded, and I've got more shots of people doing that. Remind me in the sound booth up there. This is looking into the audience, and of course that was me talking, preaching, lecturing. This is another shot from the podium, and you can see that. And one thing I want you to notice here, the ladies basically sat on the left side and the men sat on the right. And you'll notice they're wearing saris. Well, the ladies themselves decided to wear the saris, and they more or less made it an unwritten rule. And so the ladies wear the saris because, number one, they're traditional. Number two, they're modest. And number three, people notice them wearing them and where they're going. So anyway, this is up in the balcony, looking from the front of the balcony toward the back, and this is from that very front looking forward. Basically, it was a really encouraging full day, and that's another angle, and then that's another angle, and that's the ladies. In this case, they're on the left side. So anyway, but they're doing this because that's their culture. And the ladies, ladies in the audience here, this is a co-ed school, and you're going to see evidence of that as I move forward. Those are more shots of just events, closing activities, or whatever you want to call it, festivities. These ladies right here are receiving saris. Each year before I go to the lectureship, I reach out to congregations I visited in the past, and I have traveled a little bit, and people that know me and this, that, and the other, and ask for donations. And these donations are used to help feed these people. Like I said, lodging is provided, but when I say lodging, basically they take the cafeteria, which you'll see here shortly, the eating area, they shove all the tables aside and people roll their bread rolls out. And they have a lot of, and we'll get into that a little bit later, they have restroom facilities for quite a few people and shower facilities. This is the closing ceremonies and a photograph. And this is a 2021 photograph because it showed so many people. I didn't have anybody take pictures this time of this, and I got hung up in photos and stuff. But anyway, there's KG and a couple of some of the elders and stuff of the congregations that are visiting. Lectureship, it's not a gospel meeting, it's a lectureship. It's there to help them learn more about what they're doing, help them do a better job preaching, introduce them to information that is available at the school, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But anyway, this is that is F.T. Patton on his last trip, and I'm sitting there hopefully keeping him from bawling, and that's KG's wife. And anyway, so that's just general pictures. This area right here, the whole bottom floor is wide open, and this is where they feed the masses, so to speak. They, you can see people sitting down and eating. And this is the service line where people start out, and you can see how many plates are stacked up right there. And these people, once they get their food and they eat, there's these large basins running up and down one of the walls, and they just go wash everything off, put it away. It's interesting to watch. It's like going to a big family reunion where everybody's doing their part, for a good description of it. I'm glad I got one laugh out of that. But anyway, you can see this is of course you had lunch, you had breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and of course this is the night photo. I have a camera that I still carry a camera because I can give it to people, and if they steal it, I don't lose my phone. And if you travel, you know how much important that phone is when you want to get on a plane, right? So anyway, this is outside. This is where this table was stacked. I mean, probably about 2 foot high with material. And the preachers and the teachers and the other people that came there. And that includes the ladies, too, who are teaching the ladies' classes. And again, I mentioned co-ed. So it's, anyway, and that's just outside the building there. Now vendors are being attracted. This guy's selling ice cream. Entrepreneurship is alive. This is another booth right at the entrance of the where we went in, where I showed you where the cars drive in. And that's some entrepreneur there that's selling religious paraphernalia and stuff. So anyway, they're very, capitalism's alive and well in India. So anyway, let me back up. That's the baptistry. That's where they're baptized. Again, it is a lectureship, but some people wait and come to be baptized by KG at the school. And plus, also, they have some people come forward that weren't planning or waiting. Anyway, but anyway, that's the baptism facilities they have. And it's, like I said, it's open air. So we're traveling now again, and as you can see, we have the cows, and we have the idols everywhere, the shrines. We have traffic jams. I mentioned, and I'm going, they're taking me to another church. They keep me going all the time. Anyway, but that's good. I don't want to waste a minute. I usually stay about 3 weeks. If I stay longer than 3 weeks, I might attract negative attention from the higher up people and the government and stuff like that. So I've been warned about that by some of the other missionaries, some people who have lost or had their visas revoked. So I try and keep it within 3 weeks or very close to it so I don't raise any undue. This is, again, another one of this is a new Bible school teacher that is set to join. You know, of course, they're having some funding issues right now, so they're trying to grow it. But anyway, he has this church. He's already established this, and I don't know his full background, but anyway, he has this church that's on the second floor of his house, and that's them doing the Lord's Supper, and they're literally breaking the bread. And this is at the end, they have this little ceremony again, and again, it's a gift-giving culture, and they're going to, do that. So, and anyway, it's interesting. And that's KG with the people in the crowd. That's another shot from that. this is just, we're driving again. This is a symbol of their people doing their oil drilling. You can see that they're like on a rig and doing stuff. They're proud of what they do. They're proud of the progress they're making. These people are really motivated. A lot has happened even since COVID that I didn't expect to see happen, but it did. They kept it going. Just more local color. There we go. All right, this is a place called Canasima. Canasima stands for palm trees, not like the palm trees we're used to, where you break it open and you have the coconut milk and you have the nice white meat. These coconuts are used for fresh water more than anything else, other things as well. But if you're, so if you go there, you're going to hand you a coconut with a straw, and you can drink fresh water. So if you're ever stranded in India, and plane crash or something, you need water, and you find one of these coconuts, you can get fresh water. So anyway, the Canasima. Anyway, there's 10 congregations. I don't know if you noticed that up there, but 10 congregations came together, and I don't know what the distances were. Now, we had to actually cross from one state to another and go through a boarding crossing, which is tricky. But anyway, the 10 congregations met there just to hear me and KG speak, and some others. And this is in a guy's house, and that's his driveway. And land there is very precious. So that driveway's not all his land. But anyway, he's lucky. I mean, if you can afford, they sell it by the centimeter. We sell it by the acre. Think about it. I'm not big on, the metric system. Centimeter is not very big. So anyway, moving forward. And this is the closing ceremonies. And it was quite late at that point at night, and these people still had to go home. But before everybody went home, they had a big fellowship meal. And again, it's just like a big party. This is a checkpoint that actually came through. When I'm riding around the vehicle with a camera, I don't want to do a flash. I'm trying not to attract any attention. But I was able to get this shot. The camera that I use is good for low light. In my business days, I use it to photograph things in these dark equipment rooms and stuff. But it did quite well. But that's one of the checkpoints you go through when you cross from one state to another. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. More local color, just seeing people driving around. This is a fire station, just if you're interested. And you notice, again, we're not slowing down or anything. I take everything on the move. This is a church that is currently being built, about 80% completion, and this was a dedication ceremony. And they asked me to dedicate it. So I did. Anyway, I did it based on Paul's confession that Peter's confessing that Jesus Christ was the Son of God, and Jesus said, "On this rock I'll build my church." So that was the theme. And I took about full 5 minutes to do it, and then they clapped. And then we had a big fellowship meal. It's this was my third trip, and people are starting to get more comfortable. So I'm getting to see the real side of them, so to speak. And it's a compliment in a lot of ways, I think. And I hope I can keep doing that. The ribbon cutting. And that's the preacher of the congregation introducing or closing out. This is the fellowship, and I'm just going to go through it real quick. These people love to get together as Christians and enjoy life, and I think it draws more people in than banging a drum in a parking lot. The people in the neighborhood around here, they were really, looking over the walls and this, that, and the other. They were interested. When this church is finished, this is just some of the people. They set up a tent in the back. I said, "Did I go too fast?" Yeah, well, you can see some of it. Back up. Okay. Anyway, that's where I was. This is from outside the building. I thought I had a better picture of the tent. But it's a pretty huge tent they set up. This is a public school. You can see Ashram Public School. And you can look this up on the internet if you want to. Just type in Ashram Public School. Public schools there are not like they are here. And transportation is an issue, and there are all kinds of different things. But if you want to go to school, the school is free. But you got to buy your books. You got to have so many pairs of clothes. You got to have food. All this bought in advance. And a lot of the people there just literally are priced out. So I'm still trying to learn more about that, and that's what I know now. And you can see the importance of the Preacher's Training School. Because the students do not pay tuition, they are able to come there. And some of the young men started, it's a 2-year program. Some of the young men started when I went there the first time in 2020. And when I went there in 2023, they'd graduated, but they were still there to help out with the lectureship in any way they can. This is another one of the instructors at the school. He has a church on his roof. And there's KG with his children. KG, he's just quickly, I read a book not too long ago about individualist societies, which is us, and collective societies. And when I read that book, actually I read it on the plane because somebody gave it to me. I was visiting Bella Vista Church of Christ, and one of the guys in the mission, he said, read this book. So I read the book or listened to it, I can't remember which, but anyway, on the flight, I read the book. When I got there, I started seeing things from a whole different perspective. A collective society, think about Moses. Think about Jethro came to Moses and said, look, you're going to wear yourself out trying to do all this for all the people. You got to spread it out. So basically, you had the patriarch Moses, so to speak, leading the people. They were coming in for all the disputes and everything, and he had to divide that out. So basically, when people have a need, like young people who are married or whatever, they have a problem, maybe they want to discuss it, they go to their patriarch, they go to their, patron. That's another word you might be more used to. But anyway, they go to that person and they help them work out the problems. If someone loses their job and they can't pay the money on their house, they go talk to the patron and see what kind of help they can get. That's the kind of society they have. Basically, KG is serving in that role. He's been in it for a long time, since 1976. So anyway, the people know him, they love him. This is the rooftop church I was telling you about. You can see this is a portable building. He recently had a nice place, but the person that owned the property that he was renting sold it, and the person that rented the property wanted to rent to someone else, so he had to move. And I talked to you a minute ago about the church, like the school, being owned down to the ground level. That's not going to happen here. And it's happened in other places too. They've outlawed, in some states they've outlawed recently, they've outlawed conversion. So if you get converted to Christ, you're breaking the law. Anyway, you can just see the different views of that. And I'm just going to move pretty quick. But it's a really nice building and it's portable. It can be disassembled and reassembled. And so if he loses this place, but the owner of the property welcomed him to do it, you never know. You never know. I would like to think God had something to do with that. But anyway, that's a closing facility. And, and that's, again, they're serving food afterwards at a fellowship. These are the song books they use. They're in Telugu. There are a whole bunch of languages. We'll get into that a little bit later. You can actually look at the numbers. This is the Church of Christ in Tarangi. This is the Church of Christ that's actually located on the grounds of the Preacher's Training School in one of the buildings. And preach the Word. And I don't know if you noticed looking at some of the other pulpits as we went through the different congregations I visited, you'll see that. They preach the Word, and they're dedicated to preaching the Word. And you can look that up in 1 Timothy. So anyway, this, moving forward, keep forgetting, got to turn it back here. I sat in one of the English, combination English and Telugu, but this is an English class. When they teach preachers, they teach them in 2 languages. They teach them English and they teach them Telugu. But they already know Telugu. They have to teach me Telugu. All I got to say is good luck on that. It's a really difficult language. But anyway, fortunately, since English is the language of business, I can get by okay. Sometimes it gets a little touchy. But anyway, I sat in the class, and he was teaching in English. The English is good. There's men and women in the class. They're asking good questions. They're looking. When I talk to these people, when I lecture to these people, or when I do a devotional or dedicated bill, they are listening. If you quote a scripture, they're flipping their Bibles. And you can tell they've had lots of practice because they can do it very quickly. And this is just I just wanted to take some roof shots of the building so you could see more what's going on. They save money by drying their clothes without using electricity. This is the men's sleeping quarters, just one of the areas. Some of them have more privacy than others. This is just one I selected. You can see that this is a shower, and you can see that this is an area here. These are the different shower booths. They go all along this wall and all along this way. And, it's, there we go, back up. And these are the restroom areas on the opposite side, just about pretty close to where the showers are. And this is another gate exiting the facility. And there is a toilet. And you can see it's a little bit different than what we're used to. However, if you go there, there are facilities basically for people like us. You can, if you want to find a restroom, you can find one generally. Most places you go that have the standard Americanized or central or whatever Western toilet. That's the best way to describe it. These are the long troughs. These have recently been updated, but these are the long washing troughs that they use. And there's different knobs and pipes for each person to use. They can service a lot of people at one time quickly and efficiently. This is the chapel hall. This is where they have their morning chapel. This is also where they had, when I was getting ready to go home, a lot of the people came to wish me well, a safe journey, and have a fellowship. So anyway, it was a time. I mentioned about collecting money for the lectureship, and that I do. And anyway, they were getting ready to send me off and loading me up with all those flowers. Now we're back to the Preacher's Training School. Here's a class. You can see the ladies sitting in the front and the guys sitting in the back. This is a Bible school class. It is co-ed. They teach both. The ladies are taught to teach the other ladies. We'll get into some vocational stuff they're taught as well. There is a vocational component to this. I'll move forward. That's a class where it's a second-year English class, and it's all men in there. That's the schedule that they follow each week, and it is pretty intense. Their days, they're not twiddling thumbs much. This is just another one of the classes. This is another one of the classes. This is, KG is now doing denominational preacher training seminars. Some other places are doing this as well that I've heard other missionaries mention. I don't know if KG was one of the first, but I think he was probably pretty close. But he's going out and teaching these denominational. A lot of these denominational preachers have been left without any funding. So they are doing standalone. A lot of the churches that are being set up, like the one I showed you earlier that was being built, a lot of those are completely self-sustaining at this point. But the Preacher's Training School is not going to be self-sustaining because they don't make any money off tuition. All they have is cost. And we'll get into some numbers later. I'm not talking about money numbers. I'm talking about the numbers of people, the numbers of the preachers that have been released, and the amount of baptisms that can be directly connected, but we'll get there in a minute. But when he converts one of these denominational preachers, a lot of times the whole church will convert. That's just another shot of the chapel hall that wasn't busy. This is the library they have, and it's quite extensive. You have Telugu, and you have, okay, let me back up, okay. There's the card catalogs. One's Telugu and one's English. So on one side of the library, it's basically English. I went too far, didn't I? Yeah. Okay, that's one side. That's on the right, and there's books in the middle, and then on the left, I hit the wrong button again, didn't I? Yeah, I did. And on the left, there's another set of books. I think one side's Telugu, one side's English. And this is the vocational training. They have tailoring. They're taught tailoring. And yet you look at the sewing machines, you go, oh, those are old, aren't they? Well, they still have a lot of areas in India where electricity is really iffy. And by the way, it's not entirely unusual to lose the power 2 or 3 times a day, sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes 2 hours. It just comes and goes. You don't know when. Good thing I have a battery backup on my computer. But anyway, this is vocational training for the ladies. Computers, homemaking, health sciences for women. So when they go back home to their villages and their towns, they're able to help the young ladies. And while they're doing that, maybe they got a health problem that they can help them with. They're also sharing the gospel. And some of those are crossover classes as well. Pardon me? Yeah, he keeps telling me the USB ports on that, so I got to point it at that. Yeah, I'm not dancing. Anyway, this is vocational training, radio, TV repair, and you see the old equipment there, and you wonder, why are they still using that? Yes, they are. They don't throw stuff away. They're not like us. I'm on my way back to the airport at this point. And so anyway, you'll see the different shrines and stuff. If you'll notice, anyway, some of these houses have their favorite gods on top of the roof, and these are just like temple shrines. Some of them are right in the middle of nowhere, and you're wondering, where are the people? But they must be. This particular one features Jesus. And again, we're driving, we're moving pretty fast, and I'm just shooting through the window. But they do have Jesus there, so I thought that was really interesting, and I was hoping I would get it. And we're back to the airport at that point. India, talking a little bit about India. Basically, India has 20 states and 8 union territories. The territories, like right in that area there. But all of these boxes that are boxed around these areas are areas where preachers from the Preachers Training School are currently preaching. And now on top of that, they're also in Myanmar now, and also Australia and Nepal. I did get Nepal like that. But anyway, there's a list of the different union states. PTS preachers are in 6 of these 9 states. So anyway, 6 of these 29 states. And anyway, those are the other preachers in the other areas outside of the country, and they move around. These are some quick numbers. English medium students are 20 and 16. I'm not going to go into that very deeply because I would rather spend the time on other things, but just want to give you an idea of what they do. Some of these have had to be eliminated due to funding at this point. Total graduates. These are the numbers I was talking to you about earlier. They've had 2,376 graduates, and I'm talking about students, women students included. Bible baptisms up to 22,284, and that's basically up from 21,977 back, and I think that was 2020 was 21,970. Anyway, even during COVID, they were still converting souls, and that's the point. So anyway, that's to me, that's a great result. And I already mentioned some of these. I scratched these out that I just recently received information that those had to be dropped. And it's sad that we're having to do that. And then finally, the first recorded missionary to India was Thomas. We know also as Doubting Thomas. He arrived, he's one of the 12 apostles Jesus mainly largely credited for bringing Christianity to India in 52 AD. He sailed in a ship to the Malabar coast right in this area here. And he was killed with a spear on what's called the Big Hill near Madras. Pardon me. That'll help. But anyway, he was killed by, or martyred, whatever you want to call it, by a jealous Hindu priest, or at least that's the big story. And that was in AD 72. But there is a demographic which I'm not showing here because I tried to put it up on this and it just would not come through. You just have to look at it on the internet and zoom in. But you can see areas of the country and the concentration of Hindu versus not less Hindu. And this whole area down here is less Hindu. And that's because Christianity started first. Christianity's been in India for a very long time. And the fact that efforts like KG are expanding that, and he's considered southern India, but he's on the north part of southern India. So anyway, I wanted to add that in there because it is interesting. And then that's the end. So I did it. Was that a mouthful? Okay. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the journey. And I hope, you saw the buildings, you saw the infrastructure. That's bought and paid for. There's no loans, there's no mortgages. It's bought and paid for. And again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you guys have done. If you get the chance to go over there, it's quite an effort to go over there. You have to have a lot of vaccinations and stuff, and you have to keep them up. And there's cost involved, and then you have to get a visa. But anyway, if you're interested and you ever get the chance to go, if you really want to go, you can do it. If I can do it, I think anybody can. But anyway, to make a long story short, again, thank you for all your efforts, all your contributions. I hope and pray that you can continue to do so. I hope your congregation will continue to grow. I see on your website, and of course, I was with John Brolin. He invited me in his home last night and yesterday afternoon. And we talked about a lot of the mission work that's this church is doing. And that's what we need to be doing. And with that said, I'll close with a quick prayer. Our Father in heaven, I thank you for being with me today, and I hope that everything that I've said will encourage others to pray and support this work. I pray that you be with KG and the members there, the many members of the Church of Christ. I pray especially for those who had the recent flooding. And I pray, Lord, that you continue to be with each one of us as we support work in mission fields. And I pray that we will continue to do so and never lose the missionary spirit. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.